G'day and welcome to the GameDay Squad Fantasy Cricket Show. I'm Haz, that's Dill, and that's Stu, and we are the Fantasy Bros, back for our second last live Oz Cricket preview show. It is good to be back on the show after my AFL preseason rudely interrupted my Fantasy Bros duties for the last couple of shows. I couldn't miss a third show in a row because I did hear a little rumor that I might be losing Brodo and Showdown points for missing multiple shows back to back. So I told the coach I can't make training tonight and I have other plans. As always, thanks for tuning in, whether you're watching live or catching us on the replay. Today we'll be previewing the round 16 matchup, otherwise known as the Challenger match, which is the second last match of the BBL season. So if anyone joining us live has any sit questions, let us know in the comment section and we'll see what we can do to help. Dill, coaches had another tricky round to navigate in round 15 with that threat of weather for last night's game at Ninja. A lot of coaches were weighing up to fade the game completely and just rely on Scorchers and Sixers players to do the job. Did you end up taking the risk and playing some of those Stars and Canes players in your lineups? And how did you end up going for the round?
Yeah, g'day, Haz, Stu, and then everyone tuning in as well. We've got Mel's Misfits here, as always, saying a big hello to everyone. Good to see you again, Mel. Keep those comments coming in. Yeah, look, I think I've decided, reflecting upon that round, it's probably been my favourite round of the whole competition, purely from a complete strategic point of view. And there's probably three strategies that people employed. And look, I won't give too much away, but I think Stu had probably the best strategy. No doubt he'll talk about his in a moment and reasons why. But look, I took the strategy in my main competition of just loading up on that first game and then praying for rain in that second. I know Skip was pretty active in the Discord for about 24 hours, hoping for some rain as well, because he did something similar and was sitting top. I was sitting third in champion. And then unfortunately, or fortunately for coaches, we did get a little bit of play yesterday, which meant those that did take a risk were potentially rewarded. So I ended up dropping down a little bit into fifth, which I'm not too upset about, considering I only used the one game. So I was pretty happy with that. Fifth in champion, 10th in classic, where I did play a little bit of a different strategic game. I did have two all-rounders in there from that second game. And then Challenger, I threw a whole lot of pods in there and I came 13th. So I can't complain too much. Not as good as Mel's Misfit. She jumped from 25th into 6th because of that game last night. And then Stu, I did touch on it, mate. Congratulations. Obviously another big performance from the Fantasy Bros. Talk us through your strategy.
Yeah, stoked with a first place finish in champion. I actually had to put Skip on mute for about 24 hours because he was annoying me with all of his rain dance little gifts, because I obviously wanted the exact opposite. You and him, I think, loaded up on game one players only. So I think you both had no one going into that last match, and I was a couple points behind you and about 20 odd behind Skip. And I think you asked me for some final thoughts about my strategy at the end of the previous round show. And I finished by saying I just don't trust a fourth all-rounder in the first game. I don't think there's a high enough floor or even a big enough ceiling to go a fourth all-rounder. So I'm going to leave that spot open for the second game. And provided that game goes ahead, I got a couple of decent options there. And obviously Stoinis or Bo Webster to take advantage of. But it was risky, knowing that if that second game didn't go ahead whatsoever, I'd obviously have a donut. And it could have gone either way. I did also say, and this is probably a bit more to the strategy, that Cricket Australia are probably going to do anything they can to get that game going. And the match officials and Cricket Australia obviously did a fantastic job to get that game going ahead last night, when the circumstances that we saw, we probably wouldn't have had a lot of play otherwise. If it was just a normal round game, it probably would have been completely abandoned. I think the boys were playing in some pretty heavy downpour in patches, but they did a fantastic job to stay out there. So, yeah, I think I was pretty lucky there in that regard. Being a final, they wanted to get a result. It probably didn't seem fair for the Hurricanes to go through due to an abandoned match. So, yeah, look, I risked that final spot. I did give that spot to Stoinis. Actually, I was waiting until the bat flip. It completely slipped my mind that it locked out already at 6:15. So regardless of what the bat flip told us, I couldn't have made a change anyway. I probably wouldn't have gone off Stoinis. It was always between him or Webster. But, yeah, the moment Stoinis got that wicket, felt a little bit happier knowing I'd moved ahead of Skip, and it would just depend on if anyone else really had Webster and had most of the same team from me the previous night between the Sixers and the Scorchers. Woke up this morning to a nice first place finish in Champion, and maybe more importantly as well, reduced the gap between myself and Fez in second and Beast Mode in first. Probably just still outside striking distance, but nonetheless still close enough to chase. There's my narrative. First in Champion. How'd you go, mate? You're hot my tail in Challenger, I think.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was a bit of a disappointing week for me in Challenger, which was the one I'm trying to prioritize to get that top 10 finish and try and chase you down. But came 37th, and I played mostly Scorchers and Sixers players, and I did play Stoin last night alongside Ralph. I'm kicking myself a little bit because obviously, as we talked about, there was a little bit of strategy for last round. And obviously I was really keen on Bo Webster, and I took him out of my Challenger side just for that reason, to try and play it a little bit safe. I played Stoinis, kind of wish I swapped those over. But I did play Webster in Classic, which ended up getting me a 7th finish for the round. And I had 11th in Contender, which was just a team full of Scorchers and Sixers. So I did mix it up a little bit. Classic, I had about, I think, 6 players play last night. That's my pod team. So, Mel, you had a pretty nice jump from 25th to 6th. I think I jumped from 58th to 7th in Classic. So I had quite a few players just as a bit of a, let's see how it happens and have some fun with it. So hoping for a big bounce back week this week in Challenger. I don't think be able to finish in the top 10, but I'll just see how I can go from here, and who knows, I guess, at the end of the day. But Dill, what can our viewers and listeners expect from today's round 16 show?
Mate, before I get into that, I know you just said there that the Challenger comp for you is the main one that you're targeting. I've just run some numbers a little bit earlier based on where everyone is placed at the moment and potential prize card territory. And mate, Contender is where you should be looking at. You're not that far away from a potential prize card, and maybe you were keeping that really close to your chest so no one knew. But I don't know if you've looked at it, but you are very close to prize card territory, mate. So first season of Big Bash, and you're almost there. That is some unreal effort to be very close.
It's probably a comp that I don't think I've tried to mirror a bit of Challenger and Contender a little bit and changing the salaries around, but it's probably one that I haven't really kept up close. I know I've been in the top 20 pretty much all season, but no, I honestly didn't know I was in prize card territory, and that probably does change my thinking. I was always thinking that I was just going for an all-star card in the top 10 in Challenger, but if there's a prize card on the line, maybe Contender's the one I need to be focusing for this week.
Yeah, I won't give away how many points you're outside that top 5 at the moment, but it's not too bad. It's pretty reachable, but that probably just puts a little bit of pressure on, and I apologise for that. But hopefully we can find a way to get the bro a prize card in his first game. I saw Stu. I think you put up Luke Skipper's comment there. Skipper says, "Hey, the bros, well, Dill and Has anyway, not you, Stu." A little bit upset at you, mate. Do you have any response to our good friend Skip? Oh, Stu's dropped out. He's that upset.
He's gone.
He's that upset by Skip. He's disappeared. What have you done, mate? All right. Anyway, let's push on, and we'll get Stu back when we can. As always, look, our live shows are going to break down the upcoming fixtures for Big Bash. Obviously, with this particular fixture, it's just the one game for round 16, which is going to be a whole different kettle of fish in itself. We haven't really, had that too often. We had that the first round, and that's about it. We're going to break down some of the matchups. We're going to look at probably more so pod players rather than some of our top picks because there's obviously quite a few that we know most coaches are going to lean towards, but we're going to try and find some information and some stats for you to try and find a pod player as well. We're going to share our Fantasy Bros consensus team for the round so you can see who we're going to plan to roll out across our 3 teams and who we are high on the most. Obviously, we've got Bro Down Showdown where I think it is all stitched up for one bro in particular, but no doubt we'll get to that a little bit later, where viewers can still win plenty of prizes as well. I've got heaps up for grabs. And the last thing, look, there's still a little bit of time left. There's 2 rounds left. Perfect time to jump in and have a play around with the platform. If you're brand new to the platform, you haven't seen it before, check it out. GameDay Squad, go and download the app, check out the website, sign up and put the promo code in SUMMER, SUMMER, all caps, and you're going to get three-player common packs. And there's a perfect opportunity. Just have a play around, put in a bronze team where you're going to have heaps of free cards, and then just work it out and then get prepped for that AFL and NRL season. And just quietly, I know we've been sharing a little bit of sneak peeks at the moment, but the AFL preview shows have been on fire so far. We can't wait to drop those early next week, I believe. I hope I'm not giving too much away. And then NRL to shortly follow as well. So it's a massive preseason that we're leading into. Look, before we get into the round and what we're going to do, obviously, Stu, you just dropped out there. I think Skip rattled you a little bit. Mate, are you all right?
And I haven't had an internet issue since changing platforms to a new provider more than 12 months ago. The moment he enters the room, I magically just drop out. So I don't know if that's saying something. Skip, I know I bumped you off first in champion, but if you're hacking my internet or something, quit it, because I just about muted you on Discord. I'll find a way to mute you on here as well. Unlucky, mate. Those that rain dance didn't quite pay off, but it certainly was entertaining. Righto, yeah, I'm back. No more of that, Skip. Thanks. Cut it out.
Unreal. Look, just quickly as well, before we throw back to you, Haz, look, Izzy's put a great comment in, and no doubt we'll get to that. This round's all going to come down to the salary pods as well as the pods. And salary pods, we probably haven't talked about a lot this season for the Big Bash, and it's probably something that we will definitely talk about. It's more an NRL and AFL thing that we've done so far, but we're definitely going to touch on some salary pods. So if you're sort of looking at Izzy's comment and go, what is he talking about? We'll get to that. Don't you worry. We'll have a conversation about that. Righty, Haz, do you want to take us through the one game for round 16?
Yeah, of course I can. So on screen, you can see that we obviously only have the one game this round, and it is the Sixers versus the Hurricanes at the SCG tomorrow night at 6:15 Australian Eastern Standard Time. On screen there, we can see that it is meant to have clear skies, so we know rain about, which is great to hear. So we don't have to worry about a potential washout, which obviously doesn't really matter anyway because there's only one game. So no strategy there, thankfully. All player averages at the SCG for this season is at 37.2 GDS points. The first innings batting average is at 23. Chasing batting average is at 30. Well, last season, the Sixers allowed 39.3 to Canes, and the Canes are giving up 33.2 to the Sixers. Based on that information, is there anything in particular that might stand out as something you might want to target, Stu?
Yeah, maybe just that the difference between the runs batsmen are scoring in the first innings versus the second innings. That bat flip, again, might be pretty important. If you're sort of 50-50 on a player from either team, it might benefit waiting for that bat flip and then choosing the one who's batting second. Obviously, that's not guaranteed to be successful, but if those stats paint a bit of a picture, it's telling us that the second innings or the chasing team is probably scoring a few extra runs than they are up top in the first innings. So, yeah, I think a lot of us will have probably 2 or 3 bat wicket keepers as locks. Our fourth spot might be up for debate, and a few maybe pot options floating around for that fourth spot. That fourth spot might come from the team batting second, regardless of quality or average in the tournament so far. Maybe it just comes down to the bat flip. But, yeah, that's probably the one that stands out for me. Anything extra for you, Dill?
Yeah, the same sort of thing. It does paint a picture, though, on the other side. When we start looking at some individual stats at grounds this season and first versus second in terms of batting, and some players that are actually benefiting from batting first. So it's going to be really interesting to have that debate and sort of look at those stats a little bit later on. So, yeah, I tend to agree that chasing batting average does tell a story of 30 versus that first innings of 23. But I guess end of the day, it's probably going to be the difference between 1, maybe 2 players that you're going to make. So, I think it's going to be a really interesting bat flip tomorrow night for sure.
Yeah, completely agree. All right, boys, let's get into our full preview of the bat and wicketkeeper positions for round 16. On screen, you can see the top 5 averaging players available from the Sixers and the Hurricanes. We do have Steve Smith averaging that ridiculous 105 GDS points. I think he is a near almost lock of the century this round. If you're just fading Steve Smith this round, don't. Just play him. Chowdhury, Philippi, McDermott, and Lockie Shaw round out the top 5 bat wicketkeeper options for coaches. Stu, I'm going to throw to you first. Who are you looking to target and why?
Yeah, look, the obvious one is obviously Steve Smith. I don't think we need to sit here and talk too long about Steve Smith and why we should or shouldn't play him. If you own a Steve Smith card, just get him in your side. Yeah, he might get an absolute pearler of a rock first up, but look, that's looking less likely than it is that he's going to, take down the attack from the opposition and go absolutely nuts again. He's just been in superb form. He doesn't look like giving up anytime soon. That's an easy one. I'll probably let you guys talk a bit more about the pod options, and I'll take the easy road out here and say why the Hurricane best bat for me this round is going to be Nikhail Chowdhury. Been big on him all season, particularly probably since the exit of Timmy David. That's given Chowdhury a bit more of an opportunity in that middle order, where he's really gone on to be that reliable bat to come out and blast some quick runs or put together an innings when the Hurricanes have been in a bit of trouble. So the appeal for me even just goes beyond what he's doing with the bat. And if it was just the bat that we're going with, I think he's still doing enough to warrant a spot in a shortened round where there's only 2 teams to choose from. But we've seen his bowling involvement increase quite significantly over the last 2 or 3 matches. And obviously that lifts his floor as well as his ceiling for Game Day squad. In his 10 matches, he's accumulated 279 runs with the bat. He's hit 21 fours, 14 sixes, and a pretty cool average of 47. So he's doing pretty nice things with the bat in terms of Game Day squad point scoring. But what pushes him into that elite play is what he's been doing with the ball recently and the usage that he's been getting and a little bit of trust there in the leadership group. Look at his past few matches. He's bowled in multiple games. We saw him get the opening over last night against the Stars. That's a really crucial over there. It's a wet conditions, a spin bowler that can easily get taken down. They gave him the ball that opening over in a 10 over chase that eventually got reduced to 7. So that obviously shows a lot of trust, a lot of faith in a part-time bowler. But it wasn't just that match. He had a none for 2 and an over against the Heat. He had a bit more, a longer spell for none for 18 against the Strikers earlier. No wickets yet in those 3 innings, but it's telling us that the opportunity is clearly there. They're comfortable using him more than just a batsman in that middle order, where he can certainly take advantage of a power surge or the back end of the innings where he can just clear the fence at will. If he can manage to get a cheap breakthrough, which we've seen plenty of spinners do throughout the tournament, that maybe 40 odd points with the bat can easily soar into a 60 or a 70 score with 1 over and 1 wicket. And you don't want to miss out on that. If he gets that 1 over up top and it's a miss hit from a batsman, skies it in the air, that's an easy 20 points and you'll be kicking yourself that you didn't play a batsman that also could roll the arm over. Not guaranteed an over, certainly conducive conditions there at the SCG for spin bowlers. If the pacemen are being taken down, I know Nathan Ellis is back. I don't know how fit he is, if he'll be named, but there's certainly an opportunity for Chowdhury with the ball as well. And that's why I just think stable role, reliable boundary output, and that secondary scoring avenue with the ball, you cannot dismiss.
Yeah, Chowdhury's been one of the best batsmen in the power surge all season. I think he's got a strike rate of about 250 in that power surge. He loves clearing his front leg, hitting it to mid-wicket and clearing that boundary. And like you said, he's hit 14 sixes for the season, and it's pretty good for a middle-order batsman who obviously is coming in and trying to hit the boundary from ball 1. He's not really getting time to build an innings. And the opportunities with the ball really came out of nowhere, didn't it? I think that game against the Strikers, the game was done and they looked like they were just experimenting for potentially the back end of the season and having a bit of fun with it. And here we are 3 games later, he's gotten an over in each of those games and opening the bowling in 2 of them. So you have to think that, like you said, SCG conducive to spin, he's probably going to get at least 1, maybe 2 overs again this match. And then it just takes one silly shot from the batsman and he's got 20 points. So I think he does have a really safe floor. He's also taken the 6 catches for the season as well. So he's got that. He's put in the hot spots quite regularly by the Hurricanes. So I think, it's a really good shout. It's the second best batsman this round behind Steve Smith. Just for that reason, he does have a nice floor in case he does fail with the bat. Dill, who are you looking to target and why?
Yeah, look, just before I get into that, obviously Steve Smith is the number one batsman for this round, and that's going to be pretty much, if a coach has a Steve Smith card, they're going to be playing him. Let's just have a quick chat about the in terms of salary, and say for one of the lower competitions. Let's say for whatever reason you've got a flat Steve Smith and you're able to play him in Classic, or you could play him in Challenger or Champion. Is that something that you look to strategically put a higher rarity Steve Smith into one of those competitions like Classic, where he becomes the ultimate salary pod, or you're still looking at playing sort of a gold there and then putting him higher up? Stu, I'll start with you, mate, and then throw to Haz as well.
Yeah, I reckon if anyone owns a Steve Smith prize card, they should certainly consider playing him in a team that is around prize card territory to get another one. No, but in all seriousness, look, he's proven that he's got probably the highest ceiling for anyone playing in tonight's match. And it's not guaranteed of a massive 100-point score, but he's done it, time and time and time again. If you're looking at loading up on some salary and you've got the card, you probably want to put it on the guy with the ceiling. If everyone's going to play him and he does go off, then you're getting the extra benefit, whether it's 10, 15, 20, 25 points. That could be the difference between a podium finish and a top 10 finish, or a top 20 finish maybe. For me, it's probably looking at the ceiling. Some of the safer guys that don't have a ceiling, I don't think there's any need to put too much of a salary on them. Even going as small as bronze, if you can, in some of those lower tier competitions, if a bowler is only going to get a 50-odd max, there's no point putting a massive plat on them, because that 50 turns into a 65 or whatever. But that big Steve Smith score goes absolutely bonkers when he does put things together.
Yep. And it has, for you, mate, in some of those the Contender Classic competitions, is that something similar that you're looking to do? Find your highest rarity of Steve Smith, for example, and play him in those sort of competitions?
Yeah, so I think now that you've told me I'm in prize card territory in Contender, I think I'll definitely be maxing out salary on Steve Smith there. So they'll be playing a gold in Contender for sure. And then obviously my other one's Challenger, but I only have gold is my highest rarity. And luckily I've got two of them. So I'll probably play a gold, obviously, in both Challenger and Contender, and just obviously hope that the other players in and around the side can lift up the slack a little bit, knowing that I don't have the highest rarity in Challenger. But that being said, obviously I'm playing the highest rarity in Contender. So I'm happy with that. I'm not going to go out and try and look for a plat or a diamond or anything like that. I'm just happy with the cards that I've got, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and look, for anyone that's listening and hasn't heard that term salary pot, I guess the best way to explain it is playing a player that is highly owned, but putting the best rarity that you can into your team, so that, in terms of the point of difference, it comes in that multiplier rather than the player itself. So it works really well at times, and if you can get the right salary pot, I think it's super important, as you touched on, Stu, having that 100-point effort from Steve Smith and having the plat. There's 30 extra points there, and I think that's going to be a difference maker in terms of winning or losing a round if you've used that to the right effect. So I think that's super important to consider when you are planning what's going to look like, especially if you're probably not in that top 10. If you're not looking at being able to get into that top 10, then play a little bit of different strategy and have a go at seeing what works, because there's every opportunity that you might jag a win in a round and end up with some decent prize money and some decent prize packs as well. Look, in terms of my batsman wicketkeeper, the big news out of the Sydney Sixers is obviously that Babar Azam has headed out. He's been recalled into the international side. Well, that's what we've been told has happened. I did throw a little comment out in Discord earlier as to whether he's actually been given the nudge and been told that, look, you're not going to play this last game. And he's had maybe a little bit of a sook, maybe not, I don't know. And maybe he's taken off. But either way, it probably just opens up a spot that there's a little bit of debate around. The first thing is super important to remember that T20 World Cup is coming up the 7th of Feb. It kicks off. And for all of the GDS coaches that are thinking, what are we going to do between the end of the Big Bash and the start of the NRL and AFL? There is going to be a competition for the T20 World Cup. It's global championship cricket, so make sure that you get around that. Hopefully we're going to have some squads updated and the player pool will be active, ready to go soon. So don't open those packs yet, but that'll be soon. Look, in terms of Big Bash, I'm pretty sure, I have this feeling that Sixers are probably going to turn to the experience of Dan Hughes Obviously, Jordan Silk's in the running for that as well. But I would prefer, and from a GDS perspective, I would prefer if they went Dan Hughes, particularly at the top of the order. He was involved in the first 6 games of the season where either he came out at the top of the order and was either at 1 or 2 before succumbing to the illness injury. And he hasn't been able to find his way back into the side since, because they've been playing so well, because they've obviously got their blokes coming back in terms of Steve Smith, etc. They've had some form through the middle overs as well. There's been really no need to force his way back in. But I think this is his opportunity to come back. In those first 6 appearances that he had, he averaged 23.5 runs per game. He also added 4 catches across those games, which pumped up his average to 34 GDS points. And then specifically, if we break it down to the SCG, he played 2 matches there and he scored a combined 71 runs. So he had more success at home than anywhere else. In favour of Hughes' potential, I think, as well, are the points that Canes give up to opening batsmen, which has been pretty significant this season across the whole regular season. Batsmen opening against the Canes have averaged 40 GDS points. However, that does include Warner's massive 175 points effort that he had earlier in the season. Obviously, Warner's a different beast, and he Dan Hughes, although he's a great cricketer in his own right, he's probably not David Warner. So I don't know if we will expect a ceiling like that. But I think as a potential pod option, I think there's every chance Dan Hughes has a decent game. The numbers, obviously, that we talked about before around whether they're whether they're batting first or batting second is going to be interesting as well. And that might be where we make some decisions about whether we play Dan Hughes. If they're chasing, there might be more advantage for Dan Hughes to come out there. But again, obviously, it's all going to come down to that final team list with the likes of Lockie Shaw in about, that sort of middle to top order. Jordan Silk could come back as well. He hasn't been there for a few weeks, so it's going to be really interesting. In a round where we've only got the 2 teams, then the bats options are pretty thin. We can see on screen there's some decent options. But if Hughes named it really could shape as a bit of an upside pod play. What we've got to remember, though, is coaches probably have to temper those expectations a little bit, remembering that all batsmen across the regular season have averaged 33.8 GDS points, which is just pretty much the same as what Dan Hughes has been averaging all season. So we've got to remember that and think about that in terms of what we're expecting from a point of difference from Dan Hughes. But yeah, that's where I'm looking in terms of a pod if he is named.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they do go Dan Hughes or Jordan Silk with that bit extra experience in the field. They're probably likely to go one of those 2. For me, even if Dan Hughes is named, I'll probably want to look elsewhere. I'm a trends sort of guy when I'm looking at these sort of guys to fill in the back end of the squad. Started with a 0, 11, 25, 60 building nicely. Bit of a form slump with a 30, then a 15. So we've got that downtrend. I can see a sub-10 score just if you want to look at the numbers without delving any deeper. He doesn't strike me as a player that attacks as well as some of the others that we can pick from. About 122 strike rate in the BBL. Not an exciting pick, but he's certainly capable. He's got a lot of experience. Big game player, almost 37 years of age, the level head in the team. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise if he does get a big one. I probably just can't find myself getting there this round.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Stuart. I think, Dill, you raise a really good point, though. It's uncertain who's actually going to come in. Hughes was that opening batter with Bubba Razan before Steve Smith came into the calculations. Whether, like you said, they throw potentially someone like a Lockie Shaw at the top of the order. Does Flip just move up and Silk come into the middle order? I guess we just have to wait and see for team lists to come out. But if Hughes does get a game, obviously the stats say that opening batsmen should go well against the Hurricanes. But like you said, it's kind of Steve Smith. If he's opening the bat, he's probably the one that's going to go well. So Hughes potentially might not be able to replicate Steve Smith's form or go with him, and he might be the one that departs early on. So yeah, probably looking elsewhere as well in and around that pick. But that does lead me into a potential debate for the wicketkeeper position. And I've just gone and had a look at Josh Philippe versus Matt Wade versus Lockie Shaw. So they are the 3 options we have at wicketkeeper this round. I think Flip will obviously be that obvious option for coaches this round, but I just wanted to compare all 3 and provide coaches with some insight if they are looking to go against that tide and play a bit of a pod in the other 2. All the stats that I'm about to go through are from the regular season games only and don't account for their first finals game. So some of the averages might be different to what you can see on screen if you are watching live. So Josh Philippi, he played 9 games in the regular season for an average of 40.6. He had an average of 8 fielding points, which included 7 catches and a stumping. He batted in all 3 games, had 3 games above 30 with the bat, one of those being a 96, which led to a season high 133 points. But if you take that out, his next highest score is 61 GDS points, which would bring his average down to 29. So if you narrow it down even a little bit further to his average over the last 4 games, he's averaging 23.5, and he's played some really silly shots to throw his wicket away. Obviously, he played that ridiculous ramp shot against the Heat in the final game of the season. And even the other night, he slogged it one across the line, top-edged it, went straight up to Inglis at a situation where he probably didn't need to. So he's finding ways to throw his wicket away and not actually spend time in the middle. So it's interesting. Obviously, he's averaging 40, but down to 23.5. So basically halving that number in his last 4. It says to me he's a player not in form at the moment. If we're looking at the matchup, the Canes have allowed 25 points on average this season to all wicket keepers. So it's an okay matchup. It's not a great matchup. If we then look at Matty Wade, he has an average for the season of 31. He has 6.9 average fielding points, which is thanks to 5 catches and a stumping. He's batted in 7 out of his 8 games this season, and they've mostly come at number 6. He has 1 game above 30 with the bat and a further 3 games over 25 runs. He's reached double digits in every innings with a high score of 43, and that translated to 65 GDS points. In his last 4 games, his average has been 33.5, so he's been pretty consistent across the season. His average from the last 4 is just a little bit higher than his average from the front half of the season. And then looking at the matchup, the Sixers have allowed 33.4 on average to keepers this season. There hasn't been a wicketkeeper bat at number 6 versus the Sixers this season, so you can't really look at how they've gone against that position exactly. They are above average for points allowed to keepers this season, so potentially a better matchup for Matty Wade. But then I think the interesting one for me is Lockie Shaw. So I've just mentioned the fact that we don't know where he might bat. He's batted at 6 majority of the season. He's batted at 5 last game with the departure of Sam Curran. They have high expectations and high hopes for the talent this kid's got. They might throw a spanner in the works and promote him up the order. Don't know, and I'm just throwing that out there. So he has an average of 28 for the season. So yes, on screen you can see it's 34 thanks to his game last start. He has 6 average fielding points for the season thanks to 3 catches, but obviously he doesn't have the gloves. But saying that, he's a pretty decent fielder and he often fields in the hot spots. So he does still get some fielding points, which obviously helps his floor a little bit there. He's batted in all 4 games and has no games over 30 runs with the bat, but every bat he has past 13. He has a high score of 36 points for the season. And the Canes have allowed the 25 points on average this season to wicketkeeper bats, as I said, for Philippi. And then just looking at the venue data, so obviously the game's being played at the SCG. The SCG has allowed 33.1 points to wicketkeepers, which is actually the second highest in the competition for wicketkeepers. A key indicator might be the bat flip, because keepers who have batted second at the SCG average 41.3 points compared to only 25 points when batting first. So if the Sixers, obviously once team lists come out, if the Sixers bat second and Lockie Shaw is opening the batting, or even if he is named at number 5, I really don't mind him as a bit of a pot option this round.
Yeah, I like that. And I guess there's a lot to consider. There are a lot of stats that are leading to that, but I think that the key there is it's all about the bat flip. And it's the same for, I guess, on the other side for Josh Philippi. I much prefer him if they are batting first. And that goes against potentially the venue stats around the higher average when batting second. But look, in the first 4 games of the averaged 45 runs across 45 runs across the first 4 of his games when they batted first. After that, he was only able to average 12 when he was batting second. So, Flip, again, I touched on it last round, particularly with Steve Smith going hard early in the innings. He hasn't really needed to construct much of a score at the back end. Obviously, last game, not necessarily the case. He still kind of threw his wicket away for 13 runs. But yeah, it seems to me that Philippe much prefers to be batting first than batting second based on those numbers there. So yeah, I think if they win the bat flip and they bat first, or if they end up batting first, I might go Philippe. If they bat second, I think I'm with you, and I might end up going the pod of Lockie Shaw. Matt Wade's the interesting one, though. He seems to come out and just be able to swing the willow and just smack sixes for fun with nothing in front of him. That comes in a bunch of different sort of scenarios in the game, and he's just able to take his game to another level very quickly in a short space of time. And he doesn't necessarily need a whole lot of overs at the crease to be able to get that, that score around 33 and a half, like he has in the last 4 games. So, yeah, is there a world where I play all 3? No. But is there a world where I play both Philippe or Shaw and Wade? I think there will be in one of my squads. Stu, after all of that, mate, where are you looking at going?
Yeah, I just had to check the watch and see how long we were going for. We're still in the bat position. I think that's the beauty of not having a live match today. We don't have to get through it just as quick. But if you boys want to have some dinner and get to bed early, let's make sure the all-rounders get through a little bit quicker. Boys, what I like, just to finish the bat wicket keeper, is probably the good pot option would be, playing 2 and putting one of the sixes in your wicket keeper spot, and then Matty Wade, I think, is the man that can get the job done, and probably at low ownership as well. Just had a quick look at some venue stats. Obviously doesn't tell you the full story, but over their career, Philippe and Matty Wade obviously pretty lengthy careers themselves, both at the SCG. Philippe's the second all-time leading run scorer in Big Bash matches, averaging over 30, striking at just under 140. And he's got a ball per boundary ratio of 5.63. That's actually better than Steve Smith's ball per boundary ratio of 5.92. So it's not much, but it's better than Steve Smith. But Matty Wade, listen to this, 40 average in his 11 innings compared to Philippe's 31. Matty Wade strikes at 156 at the SCG, Philippe 140. Matty Wade's balls per boundary, 4.85. Which is a whole ball fewer than the great Stephen Smith, and less than Josh Philippe there as well. So yeah, Matty Wade loves the big occasion, loves the SCG. If the game script tells us that Matty Wade is every chance for a decent time out in the centre, then yeah, I think he's going to find a way into one or two of my sides based on those numbers.
Yeah, love that. All right, we won't keep you up any longer, Stu. We'll make sure we get through it. So we'll move on to our all-rounders to target. On the screen are the top 6 averaging players for this round. We can see Jack Edwards at the top there with an average of 67 points. Big Bo Webster, he's in some serious form at the moment with a 62 average there from his 3 games. Joel Davies, 50. Dwarshuis, 47. Abbott and Owen round out the top 6 all-rounders. All right, Stu, who are you looking to target and why?
Oh, I see. Has he dropped out again?
Looks like Skip has just hacked his internet again.
All right, I'll take over here and I'll talk through mine, and then we might be able to get Stu back for his. Maybe he's just had enough. He's gone to bed. Look, I've got you, Stu. Don't you worry, mate. Look, I'm not really going to go a pod in the all-rounder spot. I think I'm going to keep it pretty stock standard. And the player that I'm pretty keen on is Jack Edwards. He probably shapes as one of the best Sixers players in the all-rounder position, and then closely followed by, I think, Benny Dwarshuis. And obviously I was pretty high on both of those last match. Edwards was probably going to be keen to make up for that part in the collapse against the Scorchers a few nights ago, particularly with the bat. Obviously, we saw him come out and get out for a duck. He did really well with the ball, which has really been his significance in the team for the majority of the season. And that's probably why he remains as one of the best all-rounder options, probably all season as well, really, to be honest. He's the Sixers' leading wicket taker with 15 wickets across the 9 regular season games. In those 9 games, he bowled out his allotment all but once, and that was in the first match of the tournament. I think all the way back to that, it was a rain-shortened match. So that's the only time he hasn't bowled his full allotment. So we can definitely expect that to be the case again. Jedward's has walked away from only 2 matches without a wicket this season, and he's contributed a 3-wicket haul and then a 5-wicket haul as well, getting those all-important bonus points that we know and love. The hope for me for Edwards is that he can find the form with the bat again. In the first 4 games of the season, the Sixers really found themselves in that interesting position where they were batting first. And like I said, similar to Philippi, it's across those 4 games that Edwards probably had his best outing with the bat. He averaged 23 runs per game. In comparison to the following 6 games when the Sixers were chasing, Edwards averaged 5.7 runs from 4 at-bats. So there was a couple of times where he wasn't even required. But those other times, he hasn't done too well. So maybe it's all about that bat flip again for Edwards in terms of finding some form with the bat. There isn't probably a world as well where maybe he moves up the order depending on the situation as well. We've seen that a few times where he can float up and down the order. I do like him at 6 probably as his sort of consistency or consistent position. We have seen some higher scores from him at that spot 6. But at the end of the day, I don't think the bat flip probably deters from the selection of Edwards. I think coaches are going to pick Edwards for his bowling nous, and then anything that he does get with the bat, it's just going to accumulate those points and hope that that just adds to his ceiling there. The last thing I like is he actually averages 20 runs at home versus only 11 runs away. So he probably likes the SCG deck just a little bit more. And look, end of the day, whatever the case is, whether the Sixers are batting first or second, I still see plenty of points for Jackie Edwards, as well as most of the all-rounders for the Sixers. The Canes have allowed an average of 46 GDS points to all-rounders this season, which has them at one of the highest averages for all-rounders. So I think I'm just going to lock in Jack Edwards and then maybe look elsewhere for a pod potentially. I'm not quite sure yet about my all-rounder spot. Hopefully someone can talk me into maybe a pod or 2.
Yeah, I love the shout. I think Jack Edwards is a great play. He's consistent. He's reliable. He's got both bat and ball scoring options if available to him. Lock him in for my teams as well. Good to see you back, Stu. Welcome back. Skipper's got to your internet again, did he?
I don't know what's going on. All of a sudden, it's just a coincidence. That's all I'm going to say. It's been good for the last 12 months, and all of a sudden, twice in the one night. But let me get my all-rounder in before he types in that secret code or whatever it is. Deal, you said, do you want us to steer you into a bit of a pod? I don't think I can actually with this pick, despite him not really having a household name compared to the likes of Ben Dwarshuis, Sean Abbott, Mitchie Owen. My all-rounder is actually going to be Joel Davies, and third highest averaging all-rounder available for this round would sort of tell us that he's not really a pod, but I think he certainly is on name value, particularly if coaches want to go the tried and tested all-rounders. But Joel Davies has been a little bit more consistent than them throughout the season as those averages show us. So, look, I think the big pot of the round is obviously going to be Mitchie Owen. It's either do you take him? He's got a massive ceiling. Has he shown it? No, he hasn't. But how long is that going to continue? Is he due? Absolutely. Has he been due for long? Yes, he has. Has he delivered? Not really. So that fourth spot, it could be just about anyone. For me, Joel Davies, I think his value as a pretty reliable play in the all-rounder spot when there's only 2 teams to choose from is because of his role being it's been increasing over the past few matches where he's been trusted with the ball, bowling a lot more in all different types of venues and conditions, despite having Ben Menenti there as well. I think he's out-bowled him just about every single time they've bowled in tandem. Last 10 matches, he's delivered overs in 9 of them, including returns of 3 for 24 earlier on in the season against the Thunder, 2 for 19 against the Heat, 2 for 16 and 2 for 15 against the Stars before a 1 for 20 most recently there at Optus against the Scorchers. He's been okay with the bat as well. He's had a couple of really nice knocks, 35 and 34 not out. He's had a couple of late cameos of just some 8s and 5s, but he's certainly capable of adding some extra points with the bat, and that's certainly what we want from some of our all-rounders. Shawnee Abbott hasn't had much of a chance with the bat at all, so you're relying on his bowling, and he hasn't been finding the wickets. But for me, Joel Davies, crucially, those not outs in the mid-30s show us that, look, he often bats late enough to benefit from the match situation where he can pick up some runs pretty quickly and maybe take advantage of a power surge if he gets in at the right time there. He's not the flashiest pick in the all-rounder spot, particularly if you go on name value, but even at the SCG, I think that increases his value a little bit there. He's got that secure role now as an all-rounder. I think coaches still would have been hesitant to play him over the last couple of matches, but he keeps getting overs with the ball. And when he's had an opportunity with the bat, he's delivered on a few occasions already. I think the floor is okay. We saw a floor of mid-20s with the 1 wicket and nothing with the bat against the Scorchers. So we do have to temper expectations. We've got to understand that that's where the floor can be. But look, it doesn't take a lot for a spinner like him to get 2 wickets or maybe even a third like he's done already this season. And if he chips in with the bat as well, he could certainly be up amongst an Edwards or a Webster for total points. And if he's going to do it, it's probably going to be this round at the SCG.
Yeah, love the shout. I think the other night I think it might have been the Heat. They put a stat up on the game, and he bowled 18 boundaryless overs, which was the equal most in the competition. So that just shows that he might not be bowling his 4 overs every game, but geez, when he gets the ball, he's adding consistent pressure onto the opposition. He's not leaking runs, which makes them take more risks, which obviously lead to potential wicket-taking opportunities, not only for him, but also his other bowlers and his team. So I love that shout. I just had a quick look. He's had 3 games at the SCG this year for scores of 37, 59, and 1. That one being against the Thunder, where he only bowled the 1 over, I believe it was. So I think it's a pretty good venue for him. I think the matchup's there. He's now back up at the order at batting at 7 with Curran departing. I think it's a great shout. And like you said, based on name value, he might not be high on coach's list, but I think the averages tell a good story that I think he should be. And that brings me to my all-rounder. And boys, we haven't really thrown any pods out there because I'm looking at Bo Webster. So we've talked about the top 3 targets, top 3 scoring all-rounders for this round, but that's okay. I'm going to return to the well again. I said earlier, I was big on him last week in that rain-shortened game in the Eliminator against the Stars. He came in at first drop and scored 47 runs, which included 3 4s and 3 6s to finish on 60 GDS points. It was an innings of 2 halves for Webster, though he really struggled to get going in the first 7 overs of their rain-affected shortened over innings, where he made his way to 27 off 21 before he took Tom Curran to the cleaners with 3 massive 6s to increase his strike rate to 180 off 77 by the end of the innings. Webster was awarded man of the match for his big hitting display in an innings that continued his form with the bat since the 5th Ashes Test. He's increased his average to 62.3 from just the 3 games this season. And the matchup is pretty favourable for Webster as well. The Sixers have allowed 41 points on average to all-rounders this season. And last match against the Stars, he didn't get thrown the ball in that 7 overs, obviously shortened there. But the Hurricanes did decide to bowl Mitch Owen in the last over, which I think was a bit of a surprising decision for everyone. But I don't actually think that means that Owen is preferred over Webster with the ball. And I expect him to be given at least 1 over in this match, especially with that versatility that he provides, being able to bowl off spin or medium pace. I think at the SCG, obviously, conducive to spin, I think he'll probably bowl some overs of spin. And the SCG has allowed 43.3 points to average to all players in the second innings. So once again, talking about the bat flip, I'm hoping that the Hurricanes do bat second and Webster gets a good crack at it in the second innings there.
Yeah, I was really hoping that one of you boys would talk up Mitch Owen because I'm so keen to play him, but I just don't know if I can. No doubt there's people sitting there at home watching along thinking, why haven't they talked about Mitchy Owen? And there's some good reasons why we haven't, but you just go back to a couple of matches ago where he hit 33 off 9 balls, and could have been anything there. And I think he's going to find his way into my team somewhere, and potentially it could be a pod. But yeah, it'll be really interesting to see. Actually, it'll be really interesting to see what the stats lay about our good friend JT is going to bring up in terms of ownership percentages once the game is locked out. It'll be really interesting to see. So hopefully Stats Lab can get us some of those.
Yeah, love that. All right, let's move into our bowlers to finish it off. On screen are the top 5 averaging players. We have Mitchy Starc. Boy, he is in some serious form right now. He's averaging 76 on his return to the Big Bash. Nathan Ellis has been named in the Hurricane squad for the game tomorrow night. So he's averaging 46 points. We've got Rashad Hussain averaging 37. Riley Meredith, 37. And Big Billy Stanlake at 27 points on average. Dill, we're going to start off with you. Who are you looking to target and why?
Yeah, I think you touched on it really nicely there. Stark's going to be probably that one player that every coach is going to load up on. If they've got to start hard, obviously. It probably means that the other 2 bowlers are going to be Kane's bowlers, because Mitchell Stark's the only sixes bowling option, more than likely, that we'll have. The rest of the team are pretty much all-rounders. So we will be looking at 2 Kane's bowlers, and I could see that this now creates a perfect recipe for a potential point of difference. Looking at those stats there, maybe it's not so much a potential point of difference, but I am looking at Rashad to potentially come in and play that point of difference role for me. I think really the international player, he's had probably an ultra impressive season, I think, and he's probably sort of been a forgotten man in a way at the Hurricanes, with the likes of Riley Meredith and Nathan Ellis doing a lot of that work and having that household name. Look, Hussain's bowled a combined 34 overs in the 9 regular season games that he's played. He's taken 13 wickets across those 34 overs. That includes 2 3-wicket hauls and a total of 72 dot balls. And look, on those 2 3-wicket hauls, they occurred both at Ninja and then at Optus Stadium, where those are the 2 most conducive decks to spinners. The third venue that's actually the third most effective is the SCG this season. So I feel like he's going to be pretty effective on the SCG deck, at potentially just changing it up a little bit, throwing something out there that maybe batsmen aren't prepared for, and hopefully he can jag a wicket, similar to some of the other players that we've talked about that are the spin options as well. Look, the SCG itself has allowed an average of 21.4 bowling points alone per player per game, excuse me. This is a result of the 10 wickets that have happened out of the 49 in total at the SCG this season, and that's in 3 games that they've had there. The Canes have also heavily relied on Hussain through sort of the key middle overs there to try and break some partnerships up, and I feel like that they might need to rely on that quite a bit tomorrow night up against the Sixers, where they have been trying to keep sort of those key partnerships together. Obviously, Steve Smith and whoever he bats with is going to be a pretty important partnership that they'll try and break up. As always, there is a risk with the pod. When you play a potential point of difference, you've got to consider the risks and whether they're going to be effective for you. I can see a lot of coaches going towards the Nathan Ellis, Riley Meredith track if Nathan Ellis is playing. But look, in GDS, I think more often than not, at the end of the day, sometimes you've just got to risk it to get the biscuit, and that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, love it. I think he's probably obviously the only one spinner that we can truly target. He has been a great player for them this season. His variations have been unreal. He has been hard to pick at times. I also feel like he really hasn't gone the distance either. And those dot balls kind of tell that story. 72 dot balls is a really good haul for a spinner in the Big Bash. Obviously, batter's game, they're trying to take the bowlers down at all times. So that's very impressive for him, especially at a ground where he plays at home, short square boundaries. I think he's been really good this year, and I'll definitely be looking to play him in at least maybe 2 of my sides alongside Mitch Starc and then one of the Hurricanes quicks. Stu, who are you looking to target, mate?
Yeah, I'm with you both there in terms of Mitchy Starc and Rashad Hussain, and then finding a Hurricane quick as the third option. For me, there's too many question marks around Nathan Ellis to make him a guaranteed play. Obviously, he shapes as an outstanding play anytime the Hurricanes take the field, but it's quite alarming how he wasn't named in that knockout final match against the Stars. Wasn't even named in their squad 24 hours out. So it was the They eventually said it was hamstring awareness. Don't get me started with the name of that injury, but obviously it was bad enough for them to not even to obviously rule him out of an absolutely crucial match at least 24 hours in advance. It wasn't like they were even giving him time, and it was obviously a match. If they lost, then they wouldn't progress, and they couldn't have any chance of going back to back. So immediately alarm bells there. He has been named in that squad, like you've said. Which means he's obviously a chance. But if he does end up making that 11, there's still no guarantee that he's 100% fit. Obviously, again, it's a knockout match. They're now one game away from that grand final against the Perth Scorchers. Just got to question how fit is he going into the match and whether he can deliver all 4 overs. We'd hate to have a repeat of, it was last season, wasn't it, when he went tumbling into the advertising board, and I think he might have come back a bit sore and sorry. But if he's chasing one of those balls out to the boundary and he puts in 100% every single time he's in the game, that hamstring, obviously, if it's not 100%, could almost go at any time. And a pace bowler that relies on a lot of variety, a lot of deception, a lot of power through the crease, that sort of thing, without a hamstring, that's going to be very difficult to do. So I am going to be paying extremely close attention to the pre-match warm-up, maybe flicking between Seven and Fox if they're both televising it, getting as much information from a Nathan Ellis warm-up as possible. If he looks hindered, if he's only stretching, if he's got big bandaging on, I think I might look past him and go for a Riley Meredith or dare I say it, even a big Billy Stanlake if he's named. So yeah, it's Nathan Ellis watch for me. Unreal player, definitely in the side if he's fully fit. Couple of question marks over it, but can you steer us in a direction of Meredith or Stanlake if we have to?
Before I touch on Riley Meredith, I think Ellis, if he does get named, obviously the World Cup's just around the corner, and I don't think Cricket Australia will want him risking an injury if it is potentially too bad. I think they'll probably pull rank and decide to pull him from the game. I know he is the Hobart Hurricanes captain and they are playing a do or die final to get into the decider, but I think their World Cup quest is probably taking priority. So that, to me, that probably says if he does play, it means he's probably fit enough and he will run out the game and be able to bowl at 100%. But you raise a good point. It's definitely a watch and wait and see. But that's just my initial thought about it. I think he wouldn't want to jeopardize his World Cup campaign before it even begins, just to get through another Big Bash game. So, yeah, I agree. Watch and wait and see. But, yeah, I am keen on Riley Meredith if Ellis doesn't suit up. And maybe even if he does, is a bit of a differentiated pick. Yeah. He is in form at the moment, that's for sure. His last 2 games have been pretty impressive. His season-long average doesn't really reflect that. He's averaging 32.3 GDS points for the tournament, but that big shift has come over the last 2 games where he's clearly found that rhythm and looked far more dangerous with ball in hand. He's taken 9 wickets for the season, and 5 of those have come in the last 2 matches alone, which tells you he's starting to hit that wicket-taking groove right at the right time. That recent form has translated into strong fantasy returns as well, with back-to-back scores of 67 and 71. And the matchup is also reasonably friendly. The Sixers have allowed 32.4 GDS points to bowlers this season, so there's enough value there for Meredith to keep that run going. If he is bowling those key overs, obviously he normally bowls the 2 up front. He is getting a surge over and probably 1 at the death as well. He has bowled a maiden over this tournament. He's hit double-digit dot balls in 3 games. So the points can rack up for him when he's in form. We definitely see with the new ball is probably where he's the biggest threat. He has that ball swinging. You got Tom Rogers with an absolute beauty last night. So with that pace and bounce, if he continues to attack the stumps and hit that hard length we've seen lately, another multi-wicket performance is potentially on the table this round and might give coaches a bit of reward for selection.
Yeah, I love it. Hey, look, just quietly, maybe I'm injured every day of the week because I am always hyper aware of my hammies and how tight they always are. So, yeah, boys, look, I might have to miss Sunday's show due to hammy awareness. I'm not sure. Yeah, what a bit of a joke of a injury there. Look, I agree. I think either way, whether Ellis plays or not, I think Riley Meredith is going to be in the calculations for sure. If for whatever reason Ellis doesn't play, I think Riley Meredith for me is going to be a lock alongside Starkey, and then it probably just looks at who that third option is. Billy Stanlake could be that third option, or Hussein there. So I think for me, either way, Riley Meredith is there and thereabouts, but it's going to be really interesting to see what that final team list looks like.
Yeah, perfect. All right, that's moving into our Fantasy Bro consensus 11 for round 16. So on screen there, you can see we have Josh Philippi in our wicketkeeper spot. We have Smith, McDermott, and Chowdhury, Edwards, Webster, Davies, and Dwarshus rounding out the all-rounder spots, and then Stark, Hussein, and Ellis. Geez, boys, it looks like we've just taken the top averaging players from all those positions. Nah, but that's who we are looking.
Someone experiment and see that being the best.
Well, that's the team we are keen on, and obviously you can see the pods on the screen there. As we talked about, is Lockie Shaw with that potential to change his spot in the batting order, and then Sean Abbott, who's had a couple of down games recently, but we know how quality fast bowler he is and how much he loves to take some wickets. So you can never count Sean Abbott out, especially in big games. So if you are looking for a potential pod, maybe he is the one for you. But that leads us into Brodown Showdown, where we only have the 2 rounds remaining, where the 3 fantasy bros will go head-to-head to see who the superior bro is. Not only that, but it gives our amazing community a chance to win some more unreal prizes. For every live show, we'll be assigned a position from bat, wicketkeeper, all-rounder, and bowler, and the highest score wins. As you can see on screen, I went with Steve Smith last round. Stu went with Stark, and Dill went with Aaron Hardy. Boys, that probably has to be the closest Brodown Showdown of the season. That's very close. But unfortunately, I think for you two, I have extended my lead. Even if you decide to dock me points for missing shows, I think I'm still well out in front. I don't know what the count is. I think I've lost track.
I think you're at 7. Stu's at 3, and I'm stuck on 2, I think, or something along those lines. I haven't had a good outing once again. But look, on screen, hopefully you can see that on screen now. We've got the coaches who commented has to take that victory. And look, just quietly, I was sitting on the edge of my seat in Aaron Hardy's last over. I had a look at the stats, and I could see that it all came down to Aaron Hardy's last ball. If he took a wicket, I would have won that. And unfortunately, I believe it was a dot ball to finish off. So wasn't quite enough to get it done. But like you said, probably the closest we've had so far. Alrighty, let's spin this wheel and let's get out of here for a massive show. Good luck, everyone, on the wheel. Sensational. Mian G is our winner today. Congrats, Mian.
Congrats, Mian. I think he's backed me nearly every week, so congratulations.
Alrighty, and let's see. Hopefully we're not issues. Good work. Alrighty, Mian, we're going to open a 3-player unique for you today. And then because you missed out on a show, I'm going to open a 3-player common.
Okay, that's fair.
No, I'm just kidding. All right, Mian, good luck, mate. 3-player unique. Here we go. Come on, let's get something good to finish the season. Alrighty. Kicking us off, we have a Tom Kelly Platt. Not a good start. Let's fix it up. Peter Siddle. Do you reckon we're going to get one more year out of Peter Siddle?
Yeah, I think he's re-signed.
And we finish it off with a Nathan Ellis Platt. Perfect for tomorrow night's game. Congratulations, Mian. As always, hit us up over on the Discord. Alrighty, mate, you've done well this season. Unassailable lead. Let's get some decent cards for you to finish off the season. 3-player unique.
Steve Smith Platt or Mitch Stark Platt would be very handy.
Big animation.
Oh, it's the good animation. All right, here we go. Okay, Finn Allen Platt. Great for the grand final.
Yeah, handy.
Unreal. Or Jackson Bird, probably not as handy, but that's all right. And then we've got a diamond, and it is Johnny Merlot. Sorry, mate. Sorry.
I know. I'll take that Finn Allen.
There's nothing worse than. Yeah. Finn Allen was great. I was going to say there's nothing worse when the host opens a pack and starts laughing. I apologise. I shouldn't have done that, mate.
that is all good. Fair enough. So just need to make sure you comment the name of whatever bro you think will win our final round our second last round, round 16. Our selections are on screen there. So I am going with Jack Edwards in the all-rounder spot. Stu, you've got the sensational Steve Smith there, and Dill, Mitch Stark. I have a feeling one of you boys might get a peg up on me this week. So not looking confident.
Should we?
I heard it's double prizes for whoever comments the bowler and has a win. Double prizes?
No, it's double points. Double points round.
Double points. Okay. All right. I'll take double points.
Yeah, that's always the case for the challenger, and then the grand final is triple points. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah. That's right. I just didn't check out bylaws. That's right.
So we will be coming.
All right. You've got a couple coming through.
Sorry,
Haz. Just quickly, a couple coming through. We've got Izzy going for Stu. Mel's Misfits going for Stu as well. So finally, we're getting some Stu love. Interesting to see where Skip goes with his vote this week.
We are coming to you live on Sunday before the grand final at 5:00 on the Fantasy Bros YouTube channel. It will be our final preview for the season. So make sure you tune into that, where we will give you all the tips you need to know before the final round, which hopefully for all of you out there that are in contention for either prize cards or all-star picks, you pay attention to those and potentially find some either salary pods or pods in general. Boys, it's been a pleasure. Thanks as always. It's good to be back, and hopefully I can continue my bro down showdown dominance this week and pull an upset.
Yeah, we'll see. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
Good luck. Catch you next time.
Thank you. See you later.